And then, that gets into the laws of everything in davening, Kaddish and everything like that. We're going kind of slow, but better slow and
No
thorough.
worries, I just wanted, this question came up, and I didn't actually know the,
Starting the laws of Shvisas Yamtiv. So, you may or may not be aware of, there's the Shabbos laws, keeping Shabbos, which was 30 chapters. Then there is the holiday, Yom Tov laws. The last 3 chapters were about Yom Kippur. We just did one day of Yom Kippur. But now we're going to get to the laws of the holidays. The holidays are similar to Shabbos, although they're more lenient. For example, you're allowed to cook on the holidays. You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. However, when you cook on the holidays, there is still a special way to do it. You can't just cook anything. So there are 12 mitzvahs. You have to rest on the first day of Pesach. Number 2, you can't do any work. You have to rest. So you have a positive mitzvah to rest on the 7th day of Pesach, and a negative mitzvah not to do any work. You rest on Shavuos, not to do work on Shavuos. Rest on Rosh Hashanah, not to work on Rosh Hashanah. To rest on the first day of Sukkot, not to do work on the first day of Sukkot. To rest on the 8th day of Sukkot, not to do work on the 8th day of Sukkot. And here are the laws of resting on the holidays. So 6 days that the Torah says you cannot do work are the first and last day of Pesach, the first and last day of Sukkot, the first and second day of Shavuos, and the first and Rosh Hashanah, the day of Rosh Hashanah. Now again, Rosh Hashanah biblically is 1 day. However, already from the times of the temple, everywhere they kept 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. So biblically it's 1 day. But okay, now they're all equal. You cannot do any work except for things that are necessary to eat. So the Torah says that on Shabbos, if you don't have food, you can't do anything. You got to starve. You got to fast. But on the weekdays, on the holidays, you can prepare food. Anyone who rests on those days, he has done a positive mitzvah. Because the Torah calls it Shabbaton. It calls it Shabbosin, which means day of rest. And anyone who does a malach on these days, he's going against the positive mitzvah. For example, if he builds or destroys something, or he weaves something, and he's going against a negative mitzvah. And if he does it now it's different than Shabbos. If he does it with witnesses, he doesn't get killed, he doesn't get stoned, he gets lashes. If you do many father malachas on 1 day, for example, you plant, build, etc., you only get one lashes. So in Shabbos, we hold that if you do many things, you broke it many times, you will get punished many times. But on the holidays, spiritually you get punished many times, but the rabbi, the court will only give one, you broke it 1 time today. Anything that you are liable on Shabbos, if you do it on Yom Tov, not for eating, you get a malchus, except for carrying. Carrying, you're allowed to carry on Yom Tov. And therefore, on Yom Tov, you can carry a child or a Torah or a key from the public domain to the private domain. Similarly, you're allowed to have a fire. You're allowed to light, even though you're not eating it. However, as we'll say soon, you can't light a fire on the holidays, but you can extend a fire. However, other malachis which you need to eat, for example, to slaughter and all those things, anything that let's say you want to slaughter an animal, so we do not say because you can slaughter it to eat, you can slaughter it not to eat. Those are forbidden, and also writing and all those things, those are all forbidden. Any malacha that you can do the day before, and you will have no loss, the rabbi said, even though you're not allowed to do it. So, for example, why did they do this? They're worried maybe there are things you could do to prepare for the holiday, and you'll push it off till the day of the holiday. And then you'll be busy on the holiday doing these jobs. And you won't have time to eat and drink. And therefore, so here's what the rabbi said. Let's say, I'll give an example, and we're going to say them soon, but just to clarify. The rabbi said, let's say you want to bake bread on the holiday. Are you allowed to bake bread on the holiday?
if the oven is already hot?
The oven's already hot, right? Actually, so
Yes.
my oven broke earlier this year, and it's pretty expensive to fix it. And I've been toying with getting a GE oven because GE ovens have Shabbat mode on it, which is a advantageous thing, which is Shabbat mode. Now, what is Shabbat mode? It's complicated, but it's complicated if it's kosher. But there are ways of doing it right. So you cannot turn on the oven, right? You
Right.
can leave the oven on. Now, ovens have a problem that if you open them, it causes the thermostat to go higher, right? So that's how GE ovens have a mode that when you open it, it does not, right?
Oh.
That you can set it on a mode that's called Shabbat mode. That's one of the things of Shabbat mode. Some people think Shabbat modes you could just cook on Shabbos. They have it on. It also has a timer function. So you have two things on it. Number one, let's say tomorrow at 1 p.m. the oven's going to go on, and also when I open it, it's not going to change the heat. It's not going to advance, right? So that's now older ovens. They have like old ovens that had that. They didn't have a proper thermostat.
So the thermostat doesn't adjust when you open the door?
Correct.
It,
It just
even if the heat in the oven falls?
correct. So it goes at a constant space. So if you open your oven, right? If you open a regular
So it
oven,
doesn't compensate?
it doesn't. If you open a regular oven, it compensates. There, if you open the oven, it will cool down and it will take much longer to heat up because.
Understood.
Yeah.
But on Yom Tov, it's okay because it's already on. Right?
Well, so the thing is, GE ovens on Yom Tov, what happens is you're lighting the element. You're turning the electricity on. When you leave it open, it's not just a fire inside. In other words, GE ovens are kind of like, no, there's a fire inside, and it doesn't compensate, it doesn't cause a machine to turn on stronger. So that's
It's already on.
It's
so
already on, but
It's extending its heat on its own.
well, what you're causing a sensor to go off. Right? So that's the issue. So the GE one, you can put it on a setting. Well, I just want to say it's very complicated. GE started doing it without rabbinical supervision. And it wasn't kosher. They didn't do it right. So then eventually, like the OU, one of these things said, no. You have to buy an extra piece to get it to actually work halachically, right? And then they started integrating the supervision inside the GE oven. Someone had the idea. It's almost like a Jewish guy had the idea, but they didn't know how technical it would be. So anyways, going to that. So now, are you allowed to bake bread on Yom Tov? So the rule is you're allowed to do anything that will be more fresh today. If you could have done it yesterday, the rabbis say you can't do it today because we don't want you cooking the whole day. So now, people are allowed to slaughter animals on the holiday because fresh meat on the day of the holiday tastes better than the day before, right? But if it wouldn't taste better, then you have to do it the day before. You got that?
But if you had a wood fire, say in these times, they were using wood-fired ovens, right?
Correct.
So why would you not be allowed to bake bread?
Wood fire, so the reason why, we just said, the rabbi said, anything you could do the day before, they don't want you to do today. They don't want you to waste your whole day cooking. They want you to prepare for the holiday.
Okay.
Now, their exception is, let's say bread, fresh day-baked bread, right? The rabbis would say, oh, well, if you want fresh bread, that you could do. But let's say it's something you could have done yesterday, right? Something you could have done. Let's say something's,
I understand that.
let's say something you could have done. So that is
Because it competes with the day. It's not a question of work.
Well, the rabbis wanted you to prepare for the holiday and only cook on the holiday things that need to be cooked today.
Understood.
But things that could have been cooked the day before, they wanted to encourage you to cook it the day before.
So if you, if you prepare a meal before, we're talking about Yom Tov now. If you prepare a meal before Yom Tov, but it's cold, so you're reheating it.
So reheating is okay.
It's permitted.
Reheating is okay because you couldn't reheat it yesterday, right? You couldn't heat it up yesterday for today.
But you were following the commandment by preparing ahead.
Yes.
So that's a good thing.
Yes, correct.
And you want to eat it hot, not cold.
Correct. So anything that needs to be done today can be done today. That's if it's advantageous to be done today. Okay.
Understood.
And therefore the rabbi said, so because of this rule, they didn't want you cooking the whole day Shabbos. In other words, if you don't mind day-old chicken, do it yesterday, and then today you can cook your chicken or have right? You don't want you going out and slaughtering things the whole day and everything like that. And therefore the rabbi said you can carry on the holidays, even though you could have carried your key and dropped it off yesterday or whatever it is. Why didn't they do that? Because they wanted to to enjoy the holiday and be able to carry things and not feel you're tied up like Shabbos. But other things you could do, and they take work, you shouldn't do them on the holidays. Now he's going to give an example. For example, so now you cannot cut or thresh or winnow or wheat, right? So let's say if you bake bread today, it'll taste more fresh. You take flour, you bake bread. But if you have to harvest wheat today to bake bread and grind it and do all those things, it won't make a difference if you did it today or yesterday. So therefore, you cannot make flour today. You wouldn't have any gain. However, you can knead, bake, slaughter, cook on the holidays. If you didn't do it, and there'll be a lack, because hot bread or something that was cooked today tastes better and it's better, and a meat that was slaughtered day of tastes better. And similarly, things that prepare for the food that have a lack, you could do them on the holiday. For example, if you grind spices, a lot of times they're more potent on the day of. So you can grind spices. All right, we're going to just do a little bit more. You cannot bake and cook on the holidays what you eat on the weekdays. And you can only do things to enjoy on the holidays. If you have extra, now you can't say like, oh, I'm going to cook today for tomorrow. If you have extra, you can eat it tomorrow after the holiday, but you can only do what needs to be done today. A lady can fill up a pot of meat, even though she only needs one piece. So let's say you want to eat meat, you don't have to cut off one piece. You can cook the whole brisket, and you can fill up a whole thing of water in order to, even though you only need one little bit of water, and you can fill up a whole thing of bread, even though you only need one bread, because when you cook things together, like bigger quantities, it's better. And also you can salt many things in one, even though you only want one piece, etc. So once you're cooking, you can cook more, but you can't cook in the first place unless there is an advantage of cooking it today.
Okay.
All right, so we'll stop here. Any questions? Just give me a second.
You have to have the book with you at all times.
Okay, let's start. Good job, Paul. Okay, so this is just, I had to do one page at a time because the way the mimer, whatever, the way it hasn't been reworked yet on digitally. So, okay, so this is a mimer that will start this week, and it's going to go until, it's about Simchas Torah. So just to, are you familiar with Simchas Torah, Abe?
Not really.
Okay, Simchas Torah in, it's hard to define on one foot, but basically Simchas Torah is the climax of the high holidays. Because Rosh Hashanah is the day we announce God as King, and we start the new year. We kind of join God being His people in the new year. And then going from Simchas Torah, you have, going from Rosh Hashanah, you have Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day of forgiveness. We work for 10 days. We're in the days of Teshuvah. Now, we are repenting for everything we did last year. Yom Kippur, we're wiped clean. And then Sukkot, now we're new people. We're wiped clean. We celebrate with God in the Sukkah. We go outside and we celebrate together, like almost like we got married. And then at the final day is called Simchas Torah. That's where we begin the Torah. That's where we celebrate. It's the final day of celebration of being newly connected with God. So it's a Simchas Torah. It says, we read on Simchas Torah, we say Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they all celebrated Simchas Torah. So this is a mimer from 1986 that the Rebbe said regarding Simchas Torah. And, Simchas Torah is essentially the climax of the high holidays. Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are just to get to the end of it. Just to get to Sukkot. In other words, those are all, it's almost like if you can imagine, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they're kind of like the wedding. The serious part of the wedding, the ceremony of the wedding. And Sukkot is kind of like the celebration. So this is called Lahavin Inyan Simchas Torah, to understand the idea of Simchas Torah. Okay. So the Rebbe begins, Lahavin Inyan Simchas Torah, to understand the idea of Simchas Torah. Dihine b'yom zeh nitztava kol echad b'achim Yisrael l'smech b'Simchas Torah. On this day, all the Jewish people are commanded, the mitzvah of the day is to have joy in the Torah, to celebrate joy of the Torah. And the joy is for really great rabbis and great people, or even the smallest, most simple people. The tradition is that all people, no matter how great or how simple, they all have joy on Simchas Torah. Now, interesting to note that in the times of the temple in Jerusalem, they had dancing the whole night, every night in the temple in Jerusalem. All the Jewish people would come dance, all men, women, and children. And the way they did it then is actually the big rabbis would dance and everyone else would watch. It was like a celebration for the Torah scholars. But Simchas Torah, our tradition is everybody dances with the Torah. Everybody dances. So whether you're a big scholar or a tzaddik or a really righteous person, or whether you're a simple person, everybody dances with the Torah. This is inclusive of all generations. As we say, as we say in the poem, so what we do the day of Simchas Torah, which will be Sunday this year, not this Sunday, it'll be a few weeks, 3 weeks Sunday. What we do is we say, we dance with the Torah in the morning, and then after we dance with the Torah, we read the Torah, we finish the Torah, and then what we say is after we read the Torah, we say this poem, and we go through all the generations. We say Moses celebrated on Simchas Torah, and Abraham and Isaac, everyone celebrated. So we include all generations. So not only does every Jewish person celebrate on Simchas Torah and dance with the Torah, but actually all generations did as well. Gam dra de Malch Mashiach, and this is inclusive of the generation of Mashiach, which we're considered the generation of Mashiach. So, and that includes the generation. We say King David celebrated on Simchas Torah. Let me actually read it in the Siddur. It's actually really, really beautiful prayer. Now, Simchas Torah is an ancient holiday, and actually, it was the only holiday that Russian Jewry was allowed to celebrate in all the years. Like my father-in-law, as a child, he never got to go to shul in Russia. He'd be arrested. Young people weren't allowed to go to shul. Only old people were allowed to go to synagogue, except for Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah was the only day they would dance in the streets in Russia. They were allowed to, for whatever reason. It wasn't like, till today, I don't know if people know the reason. It was kind of like the Jews just knew they could do it. And it was like, and till today in Russia, they dance the whole night in the streets, and Jewish people who don't know anything else know Simchas Torah. Unfortunately, in America, many Jews stopped celebrating Simchas Torah because they felt Judaism is kind of a yoke, and therefore they only do the serious things. They don't do the celebrations, but the celebrations are really the things which keep Judaism together. So here's what we read. I'll just read this paragraph here. We say, I will rejoice and exult in the joy of the Torah. The Mashiach will come with the joy of the Torah. The Torah is a tree of life, life to all, for with you is the source of life. Abraham rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Isaac rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Jacob rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Moses rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Aaron rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Elijah rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Samuel rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. David rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. And Solomon rejoiced in the joy of the Torah. Fortunate are you, Israel, fortunate are you, Israel, fortunate are you, Israel, that God has chosen you and given you the Torah as a heritage, a gift in the desert. So that's what we sing on Simchas Torah, and that's what the Rebbe is referring to in this piyut. The piyut means a poem that we sing on Simchas Torah. So okay, now going back here. So this includes all generations. And actually, we start off and we say that Mashiach will come through the giving of through dancing with the joy of the Torah. And the reason is that even though regarding Mashiach it says Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, it says a new Torah will come, right? So when Mashiach comes, we'll have a new depth in Torah. We'll feel like a new Torah is new to us because we'll have such a new depth. It'll be like something we never understood. Even though when Mashiach comes, there'll be a new Torah, which again, the new Torah doesn't mean no more of our Bible. It just means we'll have a new depth in it. We know, nevertheless, we know that The giving of the Torah only happened once in history. The giving of the Torah Sinai will happen once in history. That's the beginning of the giving of the Torah. And even when Mashiach comes, it'll be similar to receiving the Torah because we will get a new Torah. Nevertheless, it's all connected. Every generation, we celebrate with the same Torah. Now, how do we celebrate? The joy of Simchas Torah is that we go around the bima with the Torah. That's how we celebrate in Simchas Torah. We dance around the bima with the Torah. We hold the whole Torah. It includes all the Torah. Because in the Torah which we hold, it has the whole Torah from beginning to end. And furthermore, this is a quote from the Zohar and the Talmud. It says, there is nothing in the world which is not hinted to in the Torah. Nothing in creation, nothing in existence is not hinted to in the Torah. By the way, in the end of October, we're doing a class on Kabbalah, and it's going to go into this a lot, a JLI course. But there is nothing which is not hinted in the Torah.
So this just translated differently. It says nothing is hinted in the Torah.
So it really should say Leka Midi Deloyer Mizi. There's nothing that is not hinted in the Torah. So even the oral Torah, which is passed down by oral tradition, that's also in the Torah. It's hinted to in the Torah. Not only that, not only is the oral Torah hinted to in the Torah, but all the sayings. It says Va'al Misein Mispar, which means there's no the verse is saying you can't count how many worlds God created, spiritual worlds. However, we translate Ilumei Musamarim. These are sayings of all the rabbis. They're all on the Torah. So how far could we delve into the Torah with oral Torah and with our traditions? Infinite amount. There's an infinite amount of information in the Torah, and all the infinite amount of sayings which can be deduced from the Torah, those are all included in the Torah we dance with on Simchas Torah. Okay, so so when we hold the Torah, and when we talk about the written Torah, there is nothing in the world, and especially no Torah teaching, which is not in the written Bible, which is not in the written Torah. So when we're dancing with the Torah, we're actually dancing with an infinite object, which has all the infinite, endless amount of teachings that have been taught throughout all generations, with those have an endless amount of depth. On the contrary, specifically, the way all these sayings in the Talmud and all the sayings in Torah are hinted to in the Torah, that is where their depth is. The way they're hinted in the Torah, that is where their depth. So it's not only that there's an infinite amount of quantity of sayings of the Torah and teachings of oral Torah, but actually there's an infinite amount of quality, infinite amount of depth hinted in the Torah. Not only that, but where do we get our Torah from? Where does the Torah come from?
Okay.
So God told Moses the Torah. We're going to read it. Actually, we read it in last week's Parsha on Shabbos. We read it this last week. Not Shabbos this last week, the week before Rosh Hashanah. Moses wrote the Torah, and it was dictated by God. And he wrote how many copies of it? 13 copies, one for each tribe and one to be put at the ark. And every Torah which does not go back to those Torahs is not a Torah, right? So each tribe copied those Torahs and passed them down. There were some years where people made mistakes, and then there was a scribe named Ezra who corrected everything, and he said, no, now everyone has to copy my Torah. But my Torah dates back to Moses. So when we have a Torah, the Torah goes back to Moses' Torah. So it comes out, Simchas Kol Yisrael b'meshach kol hadoros. Comes out that the celebration of all the Jewish people throughout all generations of Torah, we're really celebrating one Torah. One Torah, when we celebrate on Simchas Torah, there's only one Torah, and it goes back to Moses, right? It goes back to Moses. Our Torah is the exact same thing as Moses' Torah. So it comes out all generations we celebrate Simchas Torah with the same Torah, essentially doing the same thing as Moses, and that Torah is inclusive of the infinity of Torah, all the sayings, all the oral Torah, infinite amount of quantity and infinite amount of depth. And in addition to the fact that we celebrate with the Torah on Simchas Torah, we dance with the Torah, that's the main thing on Simchas Torah, is actually to physically dance. We also read from the Torah, which includes the whole Torah. Sherei Parshas Bracha, Parshas Bereshis. What do we read on Simchas Torah? We read the final portion at the end of Deuteronomy, and then we roll the Torah to the front, and we read the first portion. Okay, so in the book called Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book of creation, written by Abraham, that we have, it's a Kabbalistic mystical book, and it's passed down through Rabbi Akiva. It says that God always puts the beginning in the end and the end of the beginning. The beginning always includes everything that will come out of it, and the end always includes everything that was in it. And actually, on the contrary, the beginning is especially rooted in the end. It's like God created the world Adam, but when's the main creation? When Mashiach comes. That's the point of everything, right? So we read Bereshis, which is the beginning, and we read V'zos HaBracha, we read the end, that concludes everything. And we call it the movement From all this we can understand, we dance on Simchas Torah with the whole Torah, that every individual, we express the connection to every individual with the whole Torah. The fact that we read the beginning and the end, which is the beginning and the end, it's like that's inclusive of the whole Torah, which is in between. Okay, so now we're going to get into the question and the mimer that we're going to address. So, what did we say until now? We said Simchas Torah is a day very important day on the Jewish calendar. Perhaps one of the most important days. It's the day we dance with the Torah, we celebrate with the Torah. Every generation did it. It's the same Torah of Moses. When we dance with the Torah, it has in it everything in the world in it. In other words, Simchas Torah, it's like everything in the world revolves around dancing with the Torah, and we're dancing with the Torah. And this is for every person. And every individual does it, and every individual has this connection with God through the Torah. That would celebrate on Simchas Torah. And we need to understand. It is brought in many places. So this is actually, the place the Rebbe is quoting is the book of reincarnation. There's a book called the Book of Reincarnation, which is written by the Arizal. It's not written, it was said over by the Arizal. It's a book of reincarnation. Some of it's translated on Chabad.org, actually, if you want to read it. It's very confusing. It's very, very deep. I gave a class on it a couple times. I didn't go through, obviously, the whole book. It's very long, but I just went through selected points. So it says there that people come down in the world many times. And every time you come, you have a certain part of Torah which is relevant for you. A certain part of Torah that you need to study, that you need to become expert, and that's part of your life's mission. So now, the Arizal says, really, you have to learn all the Torah. Everyone's got to learn all the Torah. But there are certain parts that you master, which are your parts, and they resonate with you strongly. Those are your parts that you need to master. V'zel gam bir lashon razal. This is what we say in the prayer. We say, B'sein chalkeinu b'sarasecho. In the morning we sing it on page 25. We say, Shibana Beis HaMikdash, God should build the Beis HaMikdash, build the Holy Temple. B'sein chalkeinu, and give us our part in your Torah. What does it mean, our part in your Torah? Chalkeinu perish yesh l'kol echad chelka b'Torah. That means we all have a part in the Torah that we need to connect to. That's part of our life's mission. This is what the rabbis say in the Jerusalem Talmud, but it's also in the Babylonian Talmud. There are things that every person has certain novel ideas, revolutionary ideas, that he needs to discover in the Torah for the world. Now, what does it say there? It says everyone has novel ideas, revolutionary ideas in the Torah that he needs to discover and he needs to reveal. But the Talmud says, by the way, all those ideas were given to Moses. So the Rebbe always asked him that. He said, if they're novel ideas, how could they have been given to Moses? And if they were given to Moses, how could they be novel ideas? So basically, the Torah was given generally to Moses with all the rules to discover things. But Moses didn't necessarily elaborate and show each thing that could be discovered. He knew the potential that every person has a job to discover, to use the rules that Moses passed down to discover his part in the Torah. So when we all need to do that, in all generations we discover new things in the Torah. But comes out that for every person, Pratim Yisrael, Yeshem Chelek, Pratim B'Torah. Every person has their own specific part of Torah. What is the idea of Simchas Torah? That we all celebrate the whole Torah. We read the whole Torah from start to finish. When we dance with the Torah, we hold the whole Torah. The whole Torah is inclusive of everything. So what is the idea of Simchas Torah? That we dance with the whole Torah. Kanal, where each all have our part of the Torah that we connect to. So what is the idea on Simchas Torah that we connect to the whole Torah? So Prat Torah, each one of us, we have a detail in our Torah that we connect to, right? We have a detail in our Torah which we connect to. So what is the idea that we celebrate the whole Torah? Okay, so that's the end of the page. Let me just go a little more. Also, we need to understand, it is brought in the Megala Amukos. Megala Amukos we actually quoted in our class about the with King David, and Megala Amukos is a Kabbalah book from the 1600s. So he says, what does Yisrael mean? The word Yisrael. Yisrael is an acronym. What's the acronym? Yes, there are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Now in the Torah there's only about 314,000, but if you count the spaces, there's 600,000. So he says, Megala Amukos says Yisrael is the acronym of there are 600,000 letters in the Torah. Every Jew has their letter in the Torah that represents them, that they connect to. So that they get their energy. And they get their connection to the Torah and their study of Torah. Shalai. Okay, so we're going to stop here, but our question is seemingly Simchas Torah celebrates the whole Torah. We hold the whole Torah, we dance with the whole Torah, with all generations, we celebrate that we have the whole Torah, but seemingly we all have a specific conduit of energy we get from the Torah, and a specific place that we connect to in the Torah. So what is it on Simchas Torah that we're celebrating the whole Torah when seemingly it would be more fitting for us to celebrate our part of the Torah? That's the question in the mimer here.
When is the next?
When is Simchas Torah? Well, pull out a calendar.